Welcome to Not PMQs. We've got a situation happening in Poland that's taken a lot of attention. I wanted to start on that. Joining us just to speak about what's happening in Poland is Lindsey German. How are you doing? How are you doing, Lindsey?
I'm fine, thanks, Crispin, apart from the ever more dangerous world that we're living in. But I'm fine, thank you. Great.
I'll just get on to what's happening at the moment. We've had a press conference from Nato. The Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has made these points. He said there's no indication of a deliberate attack by Russia or that Russia is preparing military action against NATO. The blast was most likely caused by Ukrainian air defense, but investigations are ongoing. However, NATO does not consider this Ukraine's fault, as it has the right to defend itself. Instead, Russia bears the ultimate responsibility for the attack in Poland because of its invasion of Ukraine. This line that it's not Ukraine's fault that this missile was hit Poland has been reiterated in the House of Commons in the PMQs that's just happened. And this is what the exchange between Angela Rayner and Dominic Raab, who's standing in for.
The government has rightly requested we establish the facts and avoid unhelpful speculation. So I understand that the Deputy Prime Minister might not be able to go further today. But does he agree that last night's events aside, the fact that Russia is launching missile attacks on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure whilst world leaders meet shows the utter contempt that Putin has for international order?
The Prime Minister. Can I thank the Right Honourable Lady? I entirely agree with what she said. President Putin started this war, and whatever the determination made in relation to the events yesterday, they result, whether directly or indirectly, from the unlawful aggression perpetrated by the Russian government. And that's why the Prime Minister is out at the G20, rallying support, making sure we wean ourselves off energy dependence on Russia, making sure we we've got the energy supply from other parts of the world. And I agree with what she said 100%.
So, Lindsey, both the main parties believe that Russia's to blame for this missile hitting Poland, even though they've admitted it probably isn't Russia, because Russia has invaded Ukraine. It doesn't look like any lessons have been learned about how this could escalate and how we could try and find a solution, does it?
No, and I think this is the big question, really, because it's fairly clear now that they're admitting this is a Ukrainian missile, and it's an old Soviet time Russian missile, which was in the control of the Ukrainians. So it wasn't actually a Russian missile fired by Russia. It landed in Poland. The significance of this, as I'm sure your viewers know, is that Poland's a member of NATO, and if under Article 5, if a country is attacked, a NATO country is attacked, then other countries in NATO are supposed to go to its aid militarily. And that raises the question of a much, much bigger war. Now, that means that even the G20 leaders were very cautious yesterday, and they've all made it clear this wasn't a deliberate attack, even if it was a Russian attack. Now they're saying it wasn't even a Russian attack. It seems to me that this is the problem with this ongoing war, that as you have this war continuing, there's more and more possibility of accidents happening, as this clearly was a very unfortunate accident which killed 2 people in Poland, but that these can suddenly escalate into much, much bigger issues and can escalate into wider wars. And that's something I think we should all be very, very concerned about, and we should be calling for a ceasefire and peace as of now.
Yeah, I just find that also the Labour position with the Tories is there's no difference whatsoever. No alternative voice is being heard on this. Not even the smaller parties. I mean, maybe Jeremy Corbyn is saying stuff, but isn't that really unhelpful at the moment?
I think it's a very remarkable situation that in the British Parliament there is absolutely no dissent about what the British government policy is on Ukraine, apart from, as you say, from Jeremy Corbyn, from Claudia Webb, who's also a former Labour MP who's lost the whip, and from Sinn Féin, who don't take the Irish party, who don't take their seats in Parliament. Everybody else, the Greens, the Nationalists, the Tories, obviously, and as you say, Labour with Angela Rayner here, totally go along with this. Now, nobody supports Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Nobody that I know supports the indiscriminate firing of missiles at cities and at towns and at the civilian population, which is clearly what Putin has been doing. But at the same time, we should be saying the answer to this is not to pour more weapons in. And Ukraine now is saying they want F-15 and F-16 fighters to go in. They want a no-fly zone over Western Ukraine. This will just escalate the war much, much further. So I think it's extremely unhelpful, but not particularly surprising that Angela Rayner is taking the position that she's taking. It's always been the standard Labour policy, the Labour leadership policy, with the exception of Jeremy Corbyn. But we are heading towards a world which is getting much more dangerous and much more prone to war. I think it's worth remembering as well that NATO spends 17 times as much on the military than does Russia. And so let's get this a little bit in perspective. You know, let's look at this. This is a proxy war between Russia and NATO. The main sufferers in this are the Ukrainian people, who are suffering still very, very badly. Also, large numbers of Russian troops have been killed, but it's against all of our interests for this war to continue.
Yeah. Well, you know, is Stop the War planning anything on this? How you've sort of been attacked yourself by the media for your stance on this. Is it difficult to get the word out at all, for even in the media, or about an alternative strategy here?
It's very, very difficult, as I'm sure most people here are aware, to get alternative voices on mainstream media. Obviously, we do as much as we can through social media and through programs like your own and various other things where you get an alternative kind of platform. But it is very, very hard, because the whole consensus is that this war is justified and this war is right, and we have to keep putting money into it. Tomorrow, we've got a budget coming, which is going to absolutely hit working class people very hard. But you can bet your life there will be a big increase over the next few years in so-called defence spending. So these are the kind of priorities we're seeing. And yes, I think it is tougher for Stop the War. Nonetheless, we know there are a lot of people in this country who agree with what we're saying. When we went on the People's Assembly demonstration 2 weeks ago, we were very interested at how many people supported our bloc, which was an anti-war and peace bloc, how many people are concerned about the war, how many people took our placards. So I think people are there, but definitely they're finding it, when you've got all the parliamentary parties speaking really with one voice, I think people find it quite hard to put an alternative, but we're doing our best to get that across.